Hi there, I'm Jennifer Bleam. I'm the Cybersecurity Sherpa, and I help MSPs and other IT companies learn how to sell cybersecurity effectively and efficiently, and most of all, profitably. I'm going to ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and let's get started. So what are we talking about? Well, this is the 3 simple steps to sell anything. And all of these books are phenomenal books. These are some of my favorites. I've probably got about 20 other favorites. But about a year or so ago, I read a book that is now my top sales book of all time. Before that, I didn't have a favorite, but I do now. And that book is Gap Selling by Keenan. Now, if you are active on LinkedIn, highly recommend that you follow him. And he presents 3 very simple steps to close any sale. Now, these are not his words. These are my words. He did not endorse this video. This is me taking his concepts and then applying them to the IT world and to the MSP world. So the very first step that you always need to take when you are in a sales situation is to reveal the gap. Now, we all know when we get on site, there is a gap. There is a point A, which is where they are now, and there is a point B, which is where you want to take them. And there is always a gap. And usually in the mind of the prospect, it's a really teeny tiny gap. And as cybersecurity professionals, we know that that is an enormous Grand Canyon sized gap. Well, step 1 is to reveal that gap. Now, not reveal it to you, because as a salesperson, you already know that it's there. You know that they probably have open ports. You know that they have a million different things that are broken and wrong and are opening up tremendous risk and liability to the company. But they think everything is great and they are sleeping like a baby. And so what you need to do through your questions and through that discovery process is to help them see that there really is a huge gap and help them to become embedded, help them to become invested in wanting to change from point A to point B. Because after all, that is what you're asking them to do, is to change. And as humans, we don't like change. We dig our heels in and we decide that we love point A and that we're going to stay in point A. And there's a lot of psychological reasons for that. But if we understand, we help the user to understand that there is a Grand Canyon sized gap and what it means to their company to move from point A to point B, then we have completed the first step. So step 2 is the one that is the most uncomfortable for most IT professionals, and that is feel the gap. Because as human beings, we do not make a decision to move from point A to point B logically. We make that move emotionally. And by the way, we also make the decision to stay at point A. We make that decision emotionally as well. When I talked about digging our heels in and saying, I'm going to stick with this decision that I made, even if I have to recognize that it is a bad decision, I'm going to dig my heels in and emotionally justify staying here. And so you need to be able to pull on the emotions. And human beings are what we are. And the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and the terror and the risk to the company, it is going to trigger more buying momentum and buying emotions than rainbows and fairies and kittens. Now, I always tell my clients, if you choose to use rainbows and fairies and kittens and pixie dust, you will make fewer sales than IT professionals who are willing to lean on the risk to the company, to have very real and transparent conversations with the end user on what it means to their company in real life, the real life implications. How would you handle it if this happened? Whose job would it be to handle this? And so you are going to be asking questions and educating in such a way that it helps them to feel the gap. So we have now revealed that Grand Canyon. We have helped them to feel what it is going to mean if that actually does come true. And we do have a ransomware attack or a breach, or the FBI storms our doors. What is that going to mean to us? And how is that going to feel? It's those feelings that cause the desire to change. They want that utopia that you are promising. They want to mitigate that risk. And then that brings us to the 3rd step that everybody loves. It's the close. And what I like to say is, healing the gap. We are putting a drawbridge across that Grand Canyon and saying, you're over here in point A. I'd love to help you get to point B so that we don't have to deal with all these scary things that we just talked about. Let's mitigate that risk. Can we partner together? Would it be okay if I can simply quote you a price? Can we talk about the investment? Can we talk about how we work with businesses just like yours? Now, of course, throughout this conversation, this is not linear. We don't go from point A to point B to point C. We don't reveal the gap and then feel the gap and then heal the gap. We are dodging and weaving all throughout those 3 steps. But if you think back on any sale where you felt like you should have closed the deal and you didn't, I guarantee you missed one of those 3 steps. And the most common one that IT companies miss is step 2, the emotion. Because to you and I, it is logical. Why wouldn't we invest in cybersecurity? We see all of the threats all day long. We see what these crises will do to our clients and our prospects when the worst case scenario does indeed happen. So it just makes complete sense to us logically. And so we forget that the prospect makes decisions emotionally. And so those are the 3 steps to selling anything, to selling cybersecurity, to selling co-managed IT, to selling plain old managed services, is to reveal the gap, help the prospect to feel the gap, and then finally heal the gap. That's it for today. I'll be back next week with more tips and ideas on marketing and selling your services.